more in between, y'all. There's no more in between. There either is a season or there isn't going to be a season. There's no more in between in playing games. We got to get into this. This is crazy. Before we get into that, did any of y'all put a muzzle on Natasha Cloud yet? Have any of y'all got her to be quiet yet? That might help something. Has anybody called Natasha Cloud and said, hey, hush it up?
Tomorrow is do or die. Not figuratively, not metaphorically. Literally do or die for the 2020. The players' union and team owners have one final meeting set. Additionally, the May 8th season opening is canceled if a new collective bargaining agreement cannot be reached by the end of the day. No more negotiations, no more extensions. Either there's a season or there isn't. Additionally, the smart money believes that a lockout is imminent based on the positions of both parties.
Article here, man. Nneka Ogwumike goes behind the scenes on WNBA CBA negotiations. All right. And here it says, these days, the veteran's name has become almost synonymous with her work off the floor as her success on it. Ogwumike, who has been president of the WNBA Players Union since 2016, has spent the offseason spearheading negotiations for a collective bargaining agreement. Negotiations that threaten to bleed into the beginning of the WNBA season.
Mikika Aue-Mick has been president of the WNBA Players Association since 2016. She's negotiated one CBA already back when the league was pulling in a fraction of its current viewership. But this negotiation is different. The stakes are exponentially higher because the league just came off several of its highest-rated residents in history. 2 new expansion teams are set to join in spring, and the players know this is their moment to capitalize. But here's the critical question nobody's asking publicly. Capitalize on what exactly? What's actually driving this unprecedented growth? Listen to how Aue-Mick frames this moment. She's talking about being in a historical moment, negotiating her value in something that's increasing in valuation. She positions herself and the veteran players as a foundation that makes the league what it is today. That narrative has a problem. A 6-foot number 22 shaped problem named Caitlin Clark. Because the numbers don't lie about what actually triggered this valuation explosion. The 2024 season featuring Clark's rookie year saw television ratings jump by triple digits compared to the Indiana Fever, went from playing in front of half-empty arenas to selling out every road game they played. Merchandise sales shattered records. Suddenly, casual sports fans who couldn't name 3 WNBA players last year were buying tickets and tuning in. And this is where the negotiation gets complicated. The players' union is treating this growth as validation of their long-term value. They're arguing that years of building the league, establishing fan bases, and improving the product has finally reached critical mass. Therefore, they deserve a massive increase in revenue sharing, guaranteed housing, and salary structures that reflect this new valuation. The problem is the owners aren't buying that explanation. They're looking at the same data the players are looking at, and they're seeing one variable that changed everything. Caitlin Clark's arrival. Not a gradual build, not years of foundation laying finally paying off. One generational talent, creating a tidal wave of mainstream attention that lifted all boats. So, when the players' union walks into tomorrow's meeting demanding 30% revenue sharing, the owners are going to ask a very uncomfortable question. Are we negotiating based on sustainable growth? Or are we negotiating based on one player's drawing power? Yuji says the hardest part of her job is ensuring every player feels they have a relationship with her, that they can approach her with concerns. She's managing communication with over 140 players across the league, trying to keep everyone unified in their messaging and priorities. But unity is exactly what's starting to fracture, because not every player in this league benefits equally from potential lockout. Veterans like Ugriana Stewart and Nafi Collier have overseas contracts they can fall back on. They've got endorsement deals and established financial security. Missing half a WNBA season hurts, but it doesn't devastate them financially. Rookies and younger players, they don't have that cushion. They're counting on those WNBA paychecks. They need the season to happen so they can prove their value and build their brands. And some of them are starting to wonder if the union's hardline negotiating stance is really protecting their interests or if it's protecting the interests of veteran players who can afford to play chicken with the owners. Here's what Ogwim isn't saying in this interview. What the players' union has actually compromised on during these negotiations. We know what the owners have given ground on. They've increased their initial salary offer multiple times. They've agreed to improve travel conditions. They've acknowledged that housing needs to be addressed. Every report that's leaked from these negotiations shows the league making incremental concessions. But what have the players given up? What have they moved on? Because Agua keeps talking about negotiating in good faith and understanding the aspect of compromise, but there's no public evidence that the union has budged from any of their core demands. They still want 30% revenue sharing. They still want full housing guaranteed. They still want salary structures that some financial analysts say would put several teams underwater financially. That's not negotiation. That's a list of demands with no flexibility. And then there's the Natasha Cloud problem. While Almec is trying to maintain a professional front and talk about good faith negotiations, Cloud has been on social media and in interviews basically threatening the season. She's made it clear the players are willing to sit out. She's positioned this as a battle the union is prepared to win through attrition. That kind of public messaging does two things. First, it undermines Almec's attempts at diplomatic negotiation. Hard to claim you're negotiating in good faith when one of your prominent union members is publicly drawing lines in sand. Second, it terrifies the younger players who need the season to happen. Cloud can afford to be militant. She's established, but the rookies and second-year players watching this unfold are seeing their careers potentially delayed or derailed because the union decided this was a hill to die on. Listen to this final section carefully. Albo says they want to play, but they also want to be valued on the court. They're playing in a league people dreamed of, and they want to continue creating a league they're dreaming of today. That sounds inspiring until you break down what it actually. Context of tomorrow's meeting. The league the players are dreaming of today includes 30% revenue sharing. For context, NBA players get 50%, but the NBA is profitable. The WNBA has lost money in most years of its existence. The league is subsidized by the NBA to the tune of tens of millions annually. So, when players demand 30% of revenue, they're demanding 30% of revenue that doesn't actually translate to profit. They're asking owners to guarantee them a share of money that in many cases doesn't exist without NBA subsidy. The league people dreamed of that ARB references. That league was built on the understanding that it would take time to become profitable. That early players were pioneers who accepted lower salaries because they were building something for future generations. That's the foundation she keeps referencing. But now that foundation is being treated as irrelevant because one transcendent talent showed up and changed the entire economic equation overnight. And the union wants to be compensated, as if they created that change when the data shows pretty clearly they did. Here's what makes tomorrow's meeting so critical. Both sides have legitimate points. The players do deserve better compensation, better travel, better working conditions. The league has grown, and that growth should benefit the people actually playing the game. But the players' union is making a catastrophic strategic error by overplaying their hand. They're negotiating as if the growth is permanent and guaranteed when it's actually fragile and dependent on factors outside their control. What happens if Caitlin Clark gets injured? What happens if casual fans lose interest after one season? What happens if the television ratings from 2024 turn out to be an anomaly rather than a new baseline? The smart play will be incremental improvements with revenue sharing tied to actual profitability benchmark, lock and guaranteed raises, improve conditions and housing, then tie additional compensation to hitting specific revenue targets over the next 3 to 5 years that protects the players if growth continues, but doesn't bankrupt teams if it does. Instead, the union is demanding everything up front based on 1 year of explosive growth, and they're willing to cancel the season to get it. Ogum keeps saying she doesn't feel stress. She feels motivation and inspiration. That's great for her personal mindset. But it's a terrible negotiating position because the owners know that if the season gets canceled, the players lose more than ownership does. The owners have other business interests. They can wait this out. The players can't every day without a season is a day Caitlin Clark's momentum cools off. Every week without games is a week casual fans forget about the WNBA and move on to other sports. Every month of a lockout is a month where that hard-earned mainstream attention evaporate. The players' union is betting that the owners will blink first because they won't want to waste the momentum from TW. But that bet assumes the owners believe the momentum is sustainable without a season. And based on how these negotiations have gone, it's pretty clear the owners think they have more leverage than the players want to admit. So tomorrow's meeting comes down to this. Does the players' union accept a good deal that locks in meaningful improvements, or do they hold out for a perfect deal that might cost them the entire SE based on everything you just said, based on how Natasha Cloud has been talking based on the union's refusal to show any public flexibility? On their core demands, it looks like they're choosing the latter. And if that's the case, start preparing for a very long, very ugly lockout, because neither side is positioned to back down, and the May 8th season opener is now less than a week away with no deal in sight. The WNBA spent 28 years building to this moment of mainstream relevance. Tomorrow we find out if the players' union is about to throw it all away over a negotiation they're not actually